So the Detroit Lions already had a pretty solid defense, but they definitely made some moves this past offseason to try to turn it from pretty solid to an elite level defense, and one of the ways they did that was with the 43rd overall pick, they selected Jahlani Tavai, and that is not an easy name to pronounce by any means. I certainly think one of the major ways the Detroit Lions could beat teams next year would be with their run defense. Everything is stacking up as though they could have a very good, if not elite, run defense next year. And one of the ways to do that is by having some good, fast, physical linebackers, and Tavai could definitely be one of those guys. I definitely think he'll fit that Matt Patricia defense pretty well, because Patricia likes to have guys who are versatile, and likes to have guys who can be good at several things, and I see Tavai being exactly one of those guys. Really what I want to focus on with this video is going to be his run defense, because I do think that that's a big part of what the Detroit Lions are drafting him for, is to be a good run defender, and he absolutely can be. And so if I'm talking about run defense, what's the best way to see how good of a job someone can do at stopping the run? Well, it would be to show either an Army or Navy game, so all of these clips will be from either when they played Army or when they played Navy. One thing I just love about him, and this is kind of an intangible, but it's also kind of not, is his hustle. I mean, I feel like this guy just puts everything into every single play, which is something I really do like in a player. I am from the school of thought of some people are so naturally good that you can still be a very good player if you don't give your all on every single play. However, I don't think you can be an elite player unless you give your all on every single play. There may be a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, I do believe that's the case, and that's good news for Tavai because he absolutely hustles on every play. Like, take a look at this play, for example. It's 3rd down and 9, and they're going to fake a play action right over there, and then the quarterback will keep it himself as this is going to be an option play, so he will also have someone to toss the ball back to. From there, the other Army back who's in this game will also move up the lead block, so this is how this play is going to work. But you might be wondering a little bit why I'm talking about this play when Tavai is all the way over there. He's very far out of this play. But watch him on this play. Notice how the second he realizes what's going on, he runs up to the top half of the screen and gets in the way to make a play and does end up making this tackle. I know some people are saying, wait, they got the first down. That's a bad play. Why am I saying this as a good play? But it's not a bad play from Tavai because he was on the complete opposite side of the field when this ball was snapped. But even with that, he had to hustle to get over, do damage control essentially, and not allow this to be a game-changing run, just allow it to be the first down. This could have easily been a touchdown if not for Tavai. I mean, if he doesn't make that tackle there, I mean, who else is going to make the tackle? Possibly nobody. Tavai is not supposed to be in that play at all, but he made a play that was really impactful and really did help his team. I also noticed that when I was watching these plays, it seemed like whatever side of the field Tavai was on, the run was going in the opposite direction, and I guess it makes sense when you're going up against a guy who's 6'2", 249 pounds, that can move very well. Like, this one's another example. It's going to be very similar to that first play I showed you, where it could be run up the middle, but then the quarterback will run to the top half of the screen, and also this is going to be an option play where he could pass it back to that player right over there. And once again, Tavai is on the complete opposite side of the screen, but once again, take a look at what happens here. So at this point, Tavai has realized what's going on, and now it's going to be a run to the top half of the screen, so he's very far out of this play. But notice his quickness in moving over and trying to get to this play. He does move over very quickly. Now from here, he actually has a chance to make this play, and he actually isn't going to be able to end up doing it just because there was a lot of players in front of him and he ends up kind of falling over, but he did a great job of running over and potentially being able to get into the play. If there wasn't another Hawaii player that kind of came out of nowhere and tripped him up, he very well could have made that tackle and it wouldn't have allowed the first down there. Again, things aren't going to always break your way, but he definitely did a very good job of moving over from one side of the field to the other, and that's something that I really like about him, is he has great east and west movement. Oftentimes you only talk about that when you're talking about a running back, but it's just as important as a linebacker, and he absolutely has it. Now, one thing you might have noticed on those plays is the fact that it took him a little bit longer to actually realize which direction this ball was going to be run to before he actually ran to that side of the field to make a tackle, and that's obviously totally understandable. I mean, you do have to first things first make sure it's not a run in your direction because you don't want to get put out of position. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a quick first step when he does realize that it is going to be run in the opposite direction. Like, take a look at this one, that's where he is on the screen, and it is going to be a run to the opposite side of the field as a lot of these plays are. But notice how quickly he runs to the bottom half of the screen. I mean, the second the ball is snapped, he's already going in that direction. It's almost like he knew to play beforehand. And hey, maybe he did. Maybe he figured some sort of tell out that it was going to be run to the bottom half of the screen, or maybe he just realized, hey, these guys keep running it away from me, I'm going to actually run in that direction. But either way, now he is in pretty decent position to be trying to make a tackle for only a short gain. However, there's one problem, and it's going to be that Navy player right there is going to be able to lead block for him. So the initial angle that Tavai took is now no longer a great one because there is somebody in his way. But notice how he changed his angle and is still able to run over and make this tackle. Granted, gave up the first down again, but that's not his fault, that's the rest of Hawaii's fault. He was in damage control, so to speak, but he does a great job in damage control. One thing that just has to be talked about when you talk about Tavai is his size. I mean, he's just a big guy for linebacker. I mean, 250 pounds is edge rusher size in a lot of cases. So being that big, but also being able to move that well is really one of the things that makes him such a dominant player. Like, watch this play. The back in the game is going to move up to block Tavai, but take a look at how that's going to work out. As of right here, he has a running start and is in good position to block Tavai, but notice the positioning he is once the contact actually starts. I mean, at this point, it's like Tavai is basically just giving the back a hug at this point, and he's easily able to just toss him off. I mean, that's just not going to be able to work against a big guy like Tavai. It really is interesting having the speed but also having the size, as it kind of gives you an extra linebacker in all plays and an extra defensive lineman in all plays. If you want to run the ball against him, you either have to send an offensive lineman up or you have to try to run to the opposite direction of him. Admittedly, halfbacks and fullbacks in the NFL are better blockers than halfbacks and fullbacks in college, but it is at least a good sign that a fullback or a halfback can't really block him too well in college. And again, it's not just speed and it's not just strength, it's also footwork. Footwork is very important in a linebacker position. There's maybe more positions where it's more important, but it's important in every position, obviously, and this play will be a good example of showing how good his footwork is. That's where Tavai is on the screen, and he is going to have a one-on-one matchup. However, what's actually going to be more important right off the bat is going to be that Hawaii linebacker over there. Because look at how he runs over, crashes in, and basically takes away the Army player who is designed to block Tavai. So that's where Tavai is, and while there is an Army player right over there who could potentially block him, his job is to block that Hawaii player who's over there, so that means that he can't really try to block Tavai that much. So Army's quarterback has the ball right now, but it is an option play, so he could pass it back to that halfback. So that's where Tavai comes in, basically. He has to make sure he's in position to make a tackle, regardless of if it's the quarterback who has the ball or the running back who has the ball. But notice how despite the quarterback keeping himself, Tavai is still able to reach out, get a hand on him, and then eventually be the reason why there was a tackle there. That's not an easy play at all, especially, again, I know I keep talking about his height and weight, but that's a big factor in a player like that, is being a 250-pound linebacker. You know, the first linebacker that went off the board was Devin White, who's 6 feet tall and 238 pounds. Luke Kuechly's 6'3" and 235 pounds. And Bobby Wagner is 6 feet tall and 241 pounds. So that kind of gives you an idea of how big of a guy Tavai is. I mean, for a middle linebacker, that's definitely good to have that kind of size. But again, it's kind of similar to basketball, you know, where you see it all the time in college, where there'll be some incredibly tall guy but can't really move around too much. And so they'll be effective in college, but then in the NBA game, when guys are just so much faster, they can't really flourish. But Tavai is not that guy at all, because he has speed, and obviously, as I just showed, he has footwork as well. Okay, so I've showed a lot of positives, but this isn't just me talking about how good of a player someone is. This is a breakdown, and so I should explain some of the negatives as well, and one negative was this play. That's where he is on the screen, and also that's one more thing I wanted to bring up about him, is the fact that I do think that he could play very well in a 3-4 or 4-3. He played Mike most of the time in Hawaii, but he would occasionally run up as an edge rusher, and I think that's a lot of the reason why the Lions drafted him, because they do like to run a lot of 3-4, but they will mix it up with 4-3. I mean, every team mixes it up between 3-4 and 4-3, but Detroit especially. So anyways, that's where he is on the screen, and so he's going to be trying to run around to get to the quarterback like that. And if you notice, he is running in that direction, and there is a halfback who's over there, so now he kind of has two options. He's well behind the line of scrimmage, so he can just run over and kind of knock the halfback away, and that would take him out of this play. His other option would be to just ignore the halfback altogether and run straight to the quarterback. Those are kind of his two options on this. However, he kind of hesitates and does neither. He kind of gets close to the halfback, but isn't able to make any contact, and then by the time he gets to the quarterback, well, it's too late. He's not close enough to disrupt this pass, and now the halfback is completely wide open. Granted, a Hawaii player clearly just blew their coverage, which allowed that halfback to get wide open, but it is worth mentioning that Tavai kind of hesitated there and didn't do what he was supposed to do. I mean, this play nearly resulted in a touchdown there, and that was definitely more of a fault of just the bad defense by the entire Hawaii team, not necessarily Tavai, but it is partially his fault. That's kind of the butterfly effect a little bit, where if he just made one decision, whether he knocked the halfback out of the way or just rushed to the quarterback, then they probably wouldn't have been able to make that play. It wasn't his fault that resulted in a huge gain, but also he didn't do anything to help prevent it. More often than not, that's not going to result in a play like that, but it did that time, and again, he just didn't do anything to help. There was also this play where they're playing cover 2, and watch what's going to end up happening. Tavai sees that's a passing play, and so he's dropping back into coverage, which is what he's supposed to do. And it's especially important because Navy does have a receiver running a route that's going to be just past him over there. But what's actually key here is going to be that Hawaii linebacker right over there, because he's going to see what's going on, see that there's going to be a wide open gap that he could potentially run through and try to get to the quarterback, and so he's going to take that. It's giving up his zone, but he trusts that Tavai behind him will realize what's going on and make sure he closes up that gap, and Tavai does see him. However, if you notice, he does stop anyways to make sure he keeps his zone covered, but that's just a mistake here because there is now a wide open gap in the middle of the screen. That allows an opening and a catch for a decent gain. It was just a bad play by Tavai, and if you look at him, he even notices it. Notice how he kind of looks up and says, man, I messed that one up. That's kind of one of the flaws I see in his game, is he will kind of make those bad football IQ plays. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that he's a dumb guy by any means. I definitely think he has alright football IQ, but he just doesn't excel at it just yet. And if he's going to play linebacker, especially if he ends up playing middle linebacker, he's really going to have to excel in that department, because it is so important to be a good football IQ player when you are playing linebacker. Basically what I'm saying is he has some room for improvement, and honestly that's not a terrible thing. I mean, if you are drafting guys, sometimes it's better to just draft a guy off talent and say, hey, sure you have some room for improvement, but right now you're pretty good, so that's okay. One more play I want to talk about, and this was an almost highlight reel level play. It didn't end up being it, but I want to talk about it anyways because it was pretty good. That's the play the Army is going to be running. It's going to be an option play through the bottom half of the screen, and what they're going to do is have their halfback and also a tight end both lead block, and then it'll be the quarterback and also a receiver break out to the bottom half of the screen. So it's a run to the bottom half of the screen, and once again, it's to the opposite direction of Tavai. He's all the way over there. But watch how he's going to run to the bottom half of the screen, jump over a guy, and nearly make this tackle. Number 8 for Army was just barely able to maintain his balance and run into the end zone for a touchdown, but it almost tripped him up, and that would have been just a fantastic play from Tavai if he was able to make it. So I like the pick, I like the move the Detroit Lions have made, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it'll play out next season.